Hi, it's me. From Norse folklore to Slavic mythology, here are the 5 scariest dragons. Number 5, Fafnir. Now, this one comes from Norse mythology, but before he was a dragon, Fafnir was a dwarf. That's right, he was once a dwarf who had it all, gold and jewels, as well as knowledge and wisdom. However, he wanted more, much more. Specifically, his brother's treasure. So what did he do? Well, instead of just asking for it, he put a curse on his sleeping brother, transforming him into a dragon. And so, being a dragon himself now, he guarded his cursed treasure until his death. Yikes. So yeah, that's a long backstory for a dragon, but why does it make him scary? Well, for starters, he breathes poison. And if that wasn't enough, when he finally met his demise, his killer ended up taking on his shape, becoming the new dragon, guarding the treasure. Yeah, talk about a scary fate. Now, in terms of size and strength, he's not really comparable to some of the other dragons on this list. So, why is he even here? Well, simply because his tale is both tragic and terrifying. To go from having it all, to then being transformed against your will into an immortal monster that guards treasure deep within a cave. That's definitely something to be scared of. Plus, you have to admit there's something extra spooky about the fact that Fafnir was once a human. We could all turn into dragons, I guess, if we want to get our hands on some cursed treasure. So we rank him as, 5. Mostly due to his transformation story. Now, let's take a look at this next one. Number 4, Yamata no Orochi. This next beast comes from Japanese mythology, and although it isn't called a dragon, it sure acts like one. In fact, it's described as an 8-headed, 8-tailed dragon, and that's not even the scariest part. It was said to be so massive that it spanned across 8 valleys and 8 hills, with each head holding a different expression. Wow, so it sounds huge. What did this thing do? Well, according to myth, it ate people. Specifically maidens, and it wasn't until the storm god Susanu came along that it was defeated. Even then, he tricked the dragon into drinking sake, which made it pass out. Talk about a wild story. Now, the reason this guy is on our list is pretty simple. Size. 8 heads, 8 tails, and enough length to span across multiple valleys and hills. That is truly frightening. I mean, we all know someone who drinks too much and passes out. But can you imagine passing out after drinking just a little bit of sake? Especially if it meant you might die? That's not cool. It takes a lot of alcohol for us mere mortals to go to sleep. Apparently, the gods are lightweight. Anyway, we rank this guy as because, come on, 8 heads and tails. How can it get any better than that? 3, Ankalagan the Black. Now, this next dragon is from J.R.R. Tolkien's, and it's safe to say he's probably the most powerful dragon ever. Not only was he the biggest dragon in Tolkien's lore, but he also had the power to destroy mountains with his tail. Yeah, seriously, we're talking about a beast that was around during the years of the lamps, ages before the events of The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings. And although Smaug and Glowring were scary, they weren't anything compared to Ang. Just listen to this. When he fell from the sky, he broke the tops off the misty mountains, creating the peaks that still stand today. Now, that's some serious power. I mean, if a dragon falling from the sky couldn't scare you, I don't know what can. And to think that Sauron used him as a mount is crazy. I mean, that's like getting a ride from the devil himself. Yeah. That's a scary thought. And that's why we rank him as number 3. He's got size, strength, flying abilities, and even a pretty good backstory. What more could you ask for in a dragon? Number 2, Smeagol. This next dragon is from Slavic folklore, and although he has many similarities to other dragons, such as breathing fire and kidnapping princesses, there's something that makes him particularly unique. For starters, he has 3 heads, each with a different mind of its own. Can you imagine fighting a dragon where every time you cut off a head, 2 more grow back in its place? Yeah. That's basically what you'd be up against if you tried to slay this guy. The worst part is that each head can act independently, meaning that if one is burned, the others won't feel a thing. To make things even more challenging, they can even talk to each other through telepathy. So trying to distract one while the others are sleeping won't work either. You have to fight all 3 at once. And that's not easy, especially since they lay waste to entire villages when they want to. The only way to beat this dragon would be to find a way to target all 3 heads at the same time. But even then, who knows if that would work? After all, we're talking about a dragon that's been around for centuries. There's bound to be a few tricks up its sleeve, and that's why we rank it as 2. It's just too smart to be anything less. Number 1, the Dragon of Revelation. Finally, we've reached the top spot, and for this, we'll be looking at the dragon described in the Book of Revelation. Now, it's important to remember that in biblical symbolism, dragons represent evil and chaos, and this guy fits that description perfectly. In the Book of Revelation, it says that the dragon is red and has 7 heads and 10 horns, and if that doesn't sound scary, let me remind you that this is the ultimate evil, the embodiment of everything bad in the world. This is the guy that Lucifer himself rides into battle on, so, believe me, he's not messing around. And the scariest part is that he's only defeated at the end of times, which means that if you're watching this video right now, you're living in the final days. Okay, maybe I'm not that scary, but still this is not a dragon you want to mess around with. If he's the representation of evil itself, then you don't want to be on his bad side. I mean, he's the one who brings destruction to the world, the one who causes chaos wherever he goes. And to think that humans have been battling him since the beginning of time is just wild. Seriously, this guy's story alone is enough to scare anyone. I mean, a red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns. That's like straight out of a nightmare. You got to admit that imagery is just too much for me. So there you have it. Our ranking of the top 5 scariest dragons. Which one scared you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. Ranking the 5 scariest dragons. First off, we have to look at Fafnir from Norse mythology. Now, Fafnir wasn't always a dragon. He was once a happy dwarf who lived deep inside a mountain with his fellow dwarven folk. But he had one big problem. Well, actually, he had 2 big problems. No. 1, his name, which if I'm being honest isn't that bad. I mean, I know a few people called and no. 2, he was just a little bit greedy. One day, Fafnir found out about a treasure guarded by a dragon at the bottom of the ocean, and even though he knew the dragon was far too powerful for him to fight, Fafnir wanted that treasure. So he went to the local wizard and asked him to turn him into a dragon, so that he could steal the treasure for himself. The wizard agreed, but warned Fafnir that once he transformed, there would be no turning back. But Fafnir was desperate, so he went ahead with the spell anyway, and poof, Fafnir became a giant dragon. However, now that he was a dragon, Fafnir couldn't speak anymore, and when he breathed out, instead of hot air, he breathed out poison that killed everyone around him. Realizing what he had done, Fafnir spent the rest of his days guarding the cursed treasure at the bottom of the ocean, forever trapped in his terrible new form. Yeah, this guy really messed up. Moving on to Japanese mythology, we have the Yamata no Orochi, 8-tailed dragon so big that it literally spans across 8 different valleys and 8 hills. That's like, I don't know, almost as long as my college tuition. When the storm god Susanoo came to slay the Orochi, he knew that he couldn't win in a straight fight, so he decided to trick her instead. You see, the dragon loved to drink, and Susanoo figured that if he brought her some, she might get drunk enough for him to land a hit. So he did exactly that. And after drinking 70 gallons of sake, the dragon fell asleep. Then while she was passed out, Susanoo cut off all 8 of her heads and sealed them inside 8 different rocks. Then he put the tails in 8 other rocks and threw them across the land. In some versions of the myth, Susanoo also decapitated the dragon, although that part doesn't seem to be as universal. Either way, the Yamata no Orochi was an absolute unit, and definitely one of the scariest dragons ever. Back in Middle-earth, we have Encalagon the Black, the largest and most powerful dragon in J.R.R. Tolkien's lore. While he wasn't as evil as some of the other dragons in Tolkien's books, that didn't stop Encalagon from being a pretty terrifying beast. At one point during the fall of Gondolin, Encalagon attacked the city with his fiery breath, and when he fell to the ground after being shot down by one of the eagles, he shattered an entire mountain range. Imagine how much damage he could have done if he hadn't been shot down. Even the Balrogs were afraid of this dragon, and Sauron sent him to attack Gondor because he was basically the strongest creature that he had. So yeah, Encalagon the Black was one of the most dangerous dragons in existence. Next up we have the Zemi Gornich from Slavic folklore. Like most dragons, Gornich is a huge, terrifying monster that kidnaps princesses and lays waste to villages. He has 3 heads, each of which can breathe fire and act independently of each other. So even if you managed to burn off one of his heads, it wouldn't do much since the other 2 could just take over and keep burning stuff. In one story, the hero Ivan was tasked with going out into the forest and killing the Zemi, but when he found the dragon slayer, Ivan got scared and ran away, and the dragon pursued him through the forest, setting everything on fire. Ivan finally managed to escape, but only by hiding inside the dragon's own cave. See, you may think that that's basically a death sentence, but Ivan actually managed to trick the Zemi Gornich into thinking he was dead. And then, while the dragon was celebrating, Ivan stabbed him in the eye and killed him. This might have been the first time in history that someone managed to defeat a 3-headed dragon, but I'm willing to bet it's not the last. Last, but certainly not least, we have the Dragon of Revelation. Okay, technically, the name of the dragon isn't revealed in the Bible. The book of Revelation simply calls him the Red Dragon, but the description given is still pretty detailed. He has 7 heads and 10 horns, and he breathes out smoke, fire, and sulfur. The red dragon represents the ultimate evil that will bring destruction upon the world before the return of Jesus Christ. When he appears in the book of Revelation, he's depicted as being so powerful that the entire earth trembles at his presence. To make matters worse, the dragon constantly tries to devour the child who is destined to overthrow him, and he continues to persecute God's followers throughout the entire book. Basically, this guy is the embodiment of all evil. And if that scares you, then good, because that's the point. We can't talk about scary dragons without mentioning the most iconic of them all. In some stories, Smaug is portrayed as a more tragic figure, an innocent creature corrupted by greed and power. But regardless of your interpretation, Smaug the Magnificent is undoubtedly one of the most well-known and feared dragons in all of literature. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Which dragon was the most terrifying and why? Also, if you want to help us reach our goal of ranking every monster in the world, then you should drop a like on this video and leave a comment suggesting future topics. Until next time, I'll see you guys on the flip side.